Hi, it's Debbie again. This is a quick video to show you how to fill out the weekly planning overview. If you are submitting electronic lesson plans to your administrator, use those. You might need to fill in a couple of spots, add a few pieces for me, but just send them to me and let me take a look at them. If you do not submit electronic lesson plans to your administrator, then I need you to use this overview document to let me know what you're doing each week with your students. You don't have to give me all of your lesson plans, everything that you're doing in every area, every day of the week. I just need a kind of this gross overview, this broad overview of what you're working on kind of across your different areas for the week. And different areas you might want to highlight, or that you're going to do more than one day. So here's an example of what this document might look like. I only did one row, but you would have more filled out. So over in the first column, you're going to put the specific time or area that you have built into your schedule. You might have circle, you might have morning circle or first circle and second circle. You might have multiple circles. Go ahead and list out all the different areas. Circle, snack, outside play, you might have literacy, you might have centers. Just put down those areas that you use in your classroom on a daily basis. Then you can start anywhere. You might want to start with your instructional objectives and then kind of work your way out. But you need to tell me what your instructional objectives are for this area for the week. Not every single one, but the big ones that you're really kind of going to work on across time for that week. What do you want your kiddos to be able to do at the end of the lesson or at the end of the week? So if you're working on something that's a little bit developmental, what do you want them to do by the end of the week? These are small little instructional goals. They're not big goals, because you're telling me what you're going to do just within that 1 week. So here's a couple of examples. I talk about what I want them to do with blocks. I tell them what I want them to do in dramatic play, because these are tied back to a bigger early learning and development standard. And it's the one standard showing creativity and imagination with a couple of different points underneath. I also kind of split it here, kind of right along there, so that the blocks section of the standard goes with the blocks materials, goes with the blocks instructional objectives, goes with the motor type IEP goals. And then under creativity and imagination, I'm going to look at some dramatic play. Here's my dramatic play learning and development standards. Here are my materials. Here are my instructional objectives. Here are the IEP goals that might go with dramatic play. So all along, everything is connected. What early learning standards are you working on this week? What are your instructional objectives that are tied back to those standards? What materials are you going to use? Now that you know what you're going to teach, how does that work within the context of the IEP goals for one or more students in your classroom? When you're talking about what you're doing for centers, you don't have to list every IEP goal that's appropriate for that particular standard or those particular objectives. Which IEP goals for which children are you going to focus on for that week? You don't have to put the child's name. You can put student 1, student 2, student 3. You don't have to have IEP goals for all of your students in this chart, maybe across all of the different areas, so you can show that you're working on all of the IEP goals, or an IEP goal for every child at least once during the week. But what IEP goals are you focusing on? And then how does all of this relate to the DEC recommended practices? So you can see that I'm going to look at blocks, and I want the standard says three-dimensional structures with blocks. So I'm going to have them do a tower. I'm going to have them create a car track using a ramp. That meets the standard. Here are my materials. What IEP goals? Those are probably going to be motor goals. So maybe the student needs to cross midline with an object. Maybe they need to have a gross motor goal of squatting, retrieving an object, carrying it, and walking at the same time. So those are just examples of what an IEP goal might look like related to some instructional objectives. Then I might look at, again, for creativity and imagination, dramatic play. I want the students to sequence some actions together. I want them to describe what they're doing. I want a language goal. So this looks like a cognitive goal. This looks like a language goal as well. So what are the IEP goals that some of my children might have that play into these instructional objectives? Once you have all of this done, go back, check out your recommended practices, and see what you're teaching for that week. You can start at any point on this chart. You don't have to start with the left and move to the right. You can decide what recommended practices you're working on this week, and the ones that you're working on for the unpacking document are going to show up here somewhere for sure. You can work on other ones in other areas, but at least the one that you're unpacking for the unpacking document should show up here somewhere. But you can start anywhere. You can start with the IEP goals. You can start with instructional objectives, but you just want to make sure that everything is connected all the way across, that the standard is connected to the instructional objective, which is connected to an IEP goal, which is connected to a DEC recommended practice. So, and again, you're going to do that as an overview for the different areas that you have in your classroom. Again, this is going to lead you to having intentional instruction rather than a series of activities. And that is the purpose of what we're trying to do in this internship. And that's why we're not looking so much at lesson plans and looking at lessons in isolation. We're looking at them more holistically and broadly, and how do they relate to the recommended practices, and how is all of your instruction connected to best practices in the field. So that's what this document is for. Again, if you have something that you're already submitting to your administration, if some of these pieces are missing, I'll tell you where I want you to fit them in. And if you're not submitting anything, then I would like for you to start working on this. It's the beginning of the school year. You're overwhelmed. I get that. If you need to start with only 1 or 2 areas, do that for a week or so, or 2 weeks. And then we'll build up over the next couple of weeks, we'll build up to filling in all of the areas. What I would like for you to do is at least list all of the areas that you have in your schedule or during the day with your students, and just fill in 1 or 2 for this week or next week, and we'll build from there. But I want to know what areas you've got, and then we'll work on how to get this information all connected, and that's what I'll provide some feedback on. If you have more specific questions, if you still don't understand it, we'll set up a Zoom and I'll walk through the process with you. We'll look at what you're doing, we'll look at what your lesson plans look like, and we'll fill in this chart until you get comfortable. Again, the purpose is so that you see that what you're doing in the classroom is not just a bunch of activities, but it's all connected and leads us somewhere. It leads us to the standards. It leads us to embedding the practices, and it leads us to really being intentional with our instruction to achieve these goals. So, as usual, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.